ready.
On this episode of Buff in the Rough, we're going to talk to Chad Phillips and learn a little more about his vision of building, running, and operating a training pen. Let's welcome Chad Phillips to the program. Chad, how in the world have you been?
I've been pretty good. How you been?
I cannot complain. Better than I deserve. But hey, listen, I heard you just got back from the Nationals and had some pretty big scores up there. So tell me a little bit about what happened.
I did. Went up Thursday evening, and then the first round of running was on Friday. And Nationals have changed a little bit. You can run whatever dog, what category you want to. I chose to run my champion dog on Friday, and I started out with Meddy, Foggy Bottom's Bad Medicine. She's a 4-year-old female. But anyway, she did really good. Won her first cast that morning with a 835 score.
Wow.
I don't know that she was. I mean, I know she was one of the top scorers of the weekend. I don't know if there was any higher than that. If it was just a handful, maybe.
Wow, that's a big score, man. The running must have been pretty good.
It was. We went to I did get lucky. You got to have a little luck, and got drawn out to a really good spot. It was almost too good. It's almost too many rabbits there for a little while. If the dogs hadn't settled down and started running and working together, it would have been too many.
I hear you. Well, sounds like you had a good time.
Oh, yeah. And I was going to hunt a different dog depending on what she did in the next round, but being that she won and the National goes on cast wins now to make it into the top 16, I put her right back in, for the afternoon round, and she won that one with, I think, 200 or something like that. But anyway, so she was a double cast winner, which made pretty much an automatic put her in the top 16.
Wow. Well, that's an honor to be. That's a lot of good hounds that make that trip from all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
So to finish in that
I
top
can't
16,
remember, Sam, I can't remember the total number, but it was almost maxed out to where they do it now where they limit the amount of entries at the Nationals now. But they can still have some walk-ins if they don't have all of them, the spots pre-bought or pre-registered.
Gotcha. Well, good deal. Well,
but it was quite a few. I don't think they lack much of filling all the spots for the four separate rounds.
Well, for those that may not know you or have heard of Chad Phillips, could you just share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting old. I'm 52 years old now.
Buddy, that ain't old.
Yeah, it feels like it sometimes. But I'm from North Carolina. I was born in Greensboro and raised outside of Greensboro pretty much by grandparents. My dad's family was from down towards Siler City, and I pretty much stayed in the woods down there every chance I got. Started hunting early when I was 5 or 6 years old with my dad. And my dad had rabbit dogs or rabbit beagles, and he was a big bird hunter, so he had a bunch of bird dogs too when I was little. But went to high school in Greensboro and then got into construction after pretty much high school and was in the construction industry pretty much from then till now. And I'm kind of retired and I'm just doing the dog thing right now.
Well, I know we're here to talk about beagles, but I couldn't remember the bird dog thing. So what kind of bird dogs were they?
He had German short hairs, Brittany's, and I can't remember the other one. I think he had some, short hairs, Brittany's, and some kind of like I can't remember what they call them, just the big pointers. I can't remember what they call those. But, yeah, that's what was his first love. And then when, by the time I was getting headed into my, early teens, the birds were pretty much gone. He still rabbit hunted some, and then got into deer hunting and turkey hunting and all that, the big game stuff, because there just wasn't any, wasn't any quail farms to where you could go hunt, set out birds and all that. So, and there weren't no wild birds anymore.
I tell you,
all those kind of got wiped out.
For the folks that maybe aren't from North Carolina or maybe in this eastern part of the country, it's really interesting to have some of my neighbors come over and visit and tell stories. Oh yeah, I remember. I used to hunt where you live. Used to just be old pastures and fields, and we bird hunted all the time. And I'm like, what kind of birds? Because I hadn't seen them, and they'd be like, oh, bobwhite quail. We'd hear them all the time. There was a covey over here and a covey over there, and he remembered. This is a neighbor of mine. Just grew up in this area, and today we just don't. I don't know many bird hunters right around here. Honestly,
there's not many. I mean, there's a lot of bird hunters, but most of the time they either have to raise their own birds and set them out, or go to a game preserve and hunt their birds that basically they raise and set out for you. Now the wild birds are making a decent comeback, I'd say. There's a place up. I live in outside of South Boston in Southern Virginia right now, and I've been up here about 7 or 8 years now. But there's several places on our deer lease land that there's coveys in and around.
I
went with some guys that were from down kind of in between Greensboro and I can't remember exactly where they were from, but it was kind of in between where you're at and Greensboro, and they brought some dogs and came up and just tried them out on one of our big cutovers that we leased for deer hunting. And because I'd told them I'd seen 2 or 3 coveys in there. We didn't do any good. I don't know what it was that day. They just couldn't get on them. But those guys are all fired up. They want to come back and join the club just to be able to run their bird dog.
That's funny. Well, again, I met you through beagling and rabbit hunting at some of these field trials, and there's like a flurry of activity. Everybody runs out to the field, and then you come back into the clubhouse, and then there's that time when you just sit around. There's not a lot to do, and you just sit around and tell stories. And one thing I learned about you was that you use hounds to deer hunt up where you live.
That's right.
So
yeah,
is that a big
in this part of Virginia,
deal?
we can't do that.
Yeah, because where I live, you can't. And kind of this western part of North Carolina, you can't do that. But I thought that was really interesting, and to hear you talk about the kinds of dogs that you use for that. Some of them are purebred. Some of them are mixed up.
Yep, that's a fact. Just about anything will run a deer. Some of them run them better than others. I think really, house dogs will chase them. But when I first started deer hunting, that's what we did. We ran hounds, and it was up in the central northern part of North Carolina. Caswell County, Person County, up in there around Hyco Lake and all that. My dad and a bunch of his buddies Dad didn't have any deer hounds then, but all of his friends did. And back then it was pretty much it was all in this part of the country. It was all tree stock, coon dogs, stuff like that, and you just put them on deer instead of coons or whatever. Bunch of blue ticks, red bones, and tree and walkers too. That's what we run deer with. And back then, people didn't run deer with beagles a whole lot. Every once in a while, you'd run across somebody that had a pack of deer beagles, but usually it was big hounds, leggy hounds. Well, the land was so much spread out back then and not populated like it is now, so you could run them big hounds in this part of the country and didn't have to really worry about getting on somebody's property that didn't want them there. And
right.
But back then nobody didn't care. Everybody got along. Nobody hardly even had to lease any land. It was just, friends and farmers in your area, and they all get together and hunt. They might call themselves a club, but nobody wasn't paying any dues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you could turn down. There wasn't no tracking collars and all that, so you'd turn them loose and they'd run and hold a pack or two, and next crossing or next drive, you just turn some different dogs loose and then go catch them all at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
which was fun for me. As daddy and all them would ride around and drink white liquor, and I'd be a little kid, end up having to drive the trucks around picking up dogs. They'd take their coats or their jacket off and lay it down where they turned the dogs loose, and them old hounds would come back to that spot if you didn't pick them up somewhere else, But if you couldn't find them, they'd lay their coat or jacket down and come back that evening or first thing in the morning. And most time, them hounds would be laying right there by the coat.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've seen that trick used a million times. Pre-tracking collar, tracking
Oh
system. Yeah. Well,
I even done it with my, back years ago when I first. This was before. I guess they had the tracking collars, but I couldn't afford them. I'd lose dogs, running puppies or something, and hadn't got them completely broke yet, and they'd get off on a deer, and I left. I had to leave some several times up in the other side of Whiffle in Bland, Virginia. That is nothing but bears and mountain lions.
wow.
And leave them. I've had to leave them a couple of days sometimes and just ride back up there. And it was from where I was living in North Carolina at that time. That was over 2 hours, and I'd ride back up there whenever I got a chance. And I've caught my beagles doing that same thing, laying my coat down. I don't know how they survived it up there. I mean, that's the wilderness up there, buddy. I'm telling you.
Well, Chad, let's transition into beagles. And
Okay.
And so it's interesting to me to hear some of the stories, because a lot of guys that are into beagles or coon hunting or whatever they're into, they always hunt other things. They usually don't just whitetail deer hunt. They're going to turkey hunt. They're going to do something else. And so I think it's interesting to learn what else you're into. But today we're going to focus on beagles. And so you started at a very early age, 5, 6 years old, chasing rabbit dogs around. So when did you? Because I know you like to go to field trials now, and I know you love to gun hunt and pleasure hunt as well. Like how long was it before you really got into field trials?
I'm gonna say it was in the mid to late '90s, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably mid '90s. After I got married. I got married in '95. I had some beagles, just pleasure running, rabbit hunting dogs then, and a friend of mine, Michael Booker, you probably know him, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He taught me, and he said, "Let's go down there, and there's these field trials." And I was like, "I ain't worried about it." I wasn't really interested at first, and he finally talked me into it, and we went down to Jeff Stacy's club, Randolph County. It was the first field trial that I'd ever been to, and I had 2 grade dogs that I had bought from a man over in Forest Oaks, just old rabbit hunter, and took them down there. Took one. I took them both, but I only hunted one. I registered them both right there, single registered
Mm-hmm.
at Jeff's club, and that was the first field trial that I'd been to. I did not win, but I think I had won. I think I did make it into the winner's pack, with the registered dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of, seeing everybody else's dogs and meeting people that like the same kind of thing I liked, it was pretty interesting. So, I mean, it was almost instant hook. So from there, I just started going to everyone that I could find, around me.
So
Plus, having a good old dog, getting lucky enough to have a good dog for one of the first ones you went to, that helped.
that probably made a big difference. So when you talk
Yeah.
about style, you talked about you liked the kind of dogs that other people had, and you kind of fit in. What does that mean? You know, what kind of
Well,
what style of dog do you like to hunt?
well, for one thing, it's you got to hunt with the same kind of speed dogs as what you have or what you like. And I know you're in UKC too, so that's the faster end of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not big on I don't even really like the medium speed dogs that much, and the slow ones are just, I can't deal with. Drives me crazy, even to listen to them run. I want them to scream him. I want him to run as fast as conditions allow. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that the UKC Hound and Hunter format was that style of dog.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as far as the dog itself, I don't care. I mean, I've got favorites as far as the colors and all that. But it really doesn't matter to me as long as they're a rabbit dog. I like them.
So one of the big reasons I wanted to talk to you today, and I think folks will find it very interesting, is when you were telling me about building a training pen, and I was like, oh, Chad, I got to talk to you about that. I mean, because there's a ton of people that use a pen. I came from the coonhound world, and so we didn't really have a place to send our puppies to school. You know, you kind of trained them yourself, or at least we did. And
Right,
then when I got into these beagles, it's like, yeah, my puppy's old enough now. We just got him back from the training pen. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? And so what I found
right,
out was a lot of people use training pens to get those young pups started.
right.
And so when I heard you mention it, I wanted to just ask you a bunch of questions about, you know, why did you do it? Is that how you had your pup started in the past? And just a ton of questions, you know, how long did it take you to build it? What did you make it out of? And all kinds of stuff. But could you tell us just a little bit about why you were interested in it in the first place?
The first reason I guess that I wanted to build my own starting pen for the Beagles was it's hard to find a good pen that you trust the people with your dog for one thing, and that they will actually put some time into the dog
Mm-hmm.
and not just put them in the pen and throw a bag of feed over the fence every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't want to talk junk, but I've sent dogs to pens and that's what they did. And your dog might start and he might not, um, which that could happen anywhere. I mean, they all don't make it.
Sure.
But I had to started a bunch of my dogs by myself,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the wild. And it's really difficult because, you got to get a puppy anyway. They really need to see the rabbit to start. And it's so hard in the wild, even if you got you're already running dogs out and you're trying to get a puppy, because they'll go in and come out and go in and come out with the older dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But until they see that, get two or three little sight chases on their brain, they really don't know what they're doing.
Right.
They just kind of going along behind the other dogs. And I mean, I've even took puppies and put them up under my arm and held them by the collar and pointed them like a gun if I'd see a rabbit sitting somewhere in the wild, and try to walk him to it, and it never fails. By the time the rabbit moves, he'll turn his head. You know, it's so hard to get one started in the wild, but just because you can't. I mean, there is the exception that a puppy just goes in there and takes off running with the older dogs, but that's extremely rare. And it was just a matter of fact that I didn't like really any of the pens that were reasonably available to me around here.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, and I used to have a guy named Bobby Williams that started a lot of pups for me, and he lived over in Caswell County in North Carolina. And his wife had gotten really sick.
Oh.
And I think he's still alive, but he just gave it up.
Right.
But he was terrific with them, and everyone that I ever took him, and he would take them. And this is what I'm trying to do at my pen as well. But he would put your dogs up if he could catch them,
Mm-hmm.
every evening or morning whenever he could catch them. So they'd learn to handle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would, I mean, he may have 3 or 4 different people's dogs in his pen at one time. His main pen was like 40 acres. It was huge.
Wow.
Especially for beagles. I mean, that's huge.
That is a big pen.
Yeah. But he had 2 or 3 other pens in that, a little bitty teeny one for, I mean, puppies,
Mm-hmm.
young puppies, that was just sight raised, and he had mesh over the top of it to where nothing could get in there because he didn't have any brush really, because he wanted the puppies to be able to see it,
Mm-hmm.
see the rabbit. But he'd take them from there and put them in the next size pen that was maybe about a half an acre to an acre, and then when I got to run in there, then he'd turn them loose out into the big pen. But he would walk the puppies every day and get them to go in the brush, and I do this now and have done it for years ever since he showed me. But he would he'd take a hot dog or 2 and cut them up and put them in a little Ziploc or sandwich bag,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd walk around in his pen. If he saw a rabbit sitting and he had the puppies with him, he'd give the puppy a little piece of hot dog, and then he'd let them smell the next piece, and he'd throw it over there at the rabbit.
Oh, that's a good idea.
then the pup goes, "Oh, you threw that piece," and he goes over there, and the rabbit jumps, and he gets the sight race right there, instead of having to try and coax the puppy over there without making the rabbit move, which is extremely hard. Like I said, they're puppies. They're going to do everything that you don't want them to do.
Of course.
But that's the main reason. And then I decided, I said, hey, once I get this done, and I really wanted it for myself,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to start my dogs and some friends or whatever. And then I got to thinking about it, and my company closed down, and I said, well, I got to do something to get a little income going. So I decided, hey, I just open it up to public and friends, and just charge a fee to get people's dogs started. And so far, it's working out pretty good.
Well, that's great. So a little about the pen itself. Like, did you have a hard time picking out the kind of wire you were going to use, like how tall the wire was? I've heard of people turning the wire in or turning it out to try to keep the rabbits in.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you learned while you were building this thing?
Well, the first thing I learned is you want to get the vinyl coated wire. Otherwise, the galvanized will probably just regular galvanized wire would probably last several years anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got a vinyl coated it's basically chicken wire, but it's just a heavier gauge. It's like 20 gauge or 18. I think mine's 18 gauge. It's heavy. Vinyl coated, and it's 1 inch holes in it. That way, little baby rabbits can't get out and other stuff can't get in necessarily. Snakes don't have any problem. Mm-hmm. But anyway, and I did a 5-foot tall wire, and then I turned a foot out, or actually I turned it in, I guess you'd say,
mm-hmm.
to the interior of the pen. That way the rabbits won't dig out.
Mm-hmm.
Because wild rabbits will dig out, and then if you use any, I don't know, they ain't really tame rabbits, but raised rabbits, Tennessee redbacks, Missouri cottontails, different kind of stuff. Everybody has a different name for them, but they dig a whole lot more than cottontails. Okay. For whatever reason. I don't know why, but I learned that over the years of talking with other people that had pens. So you got to have something. I mean, it'd probably be good. I didn't do this, but it would probably be a good idea to put, if you could afford to do it, turn out a little bit on the ground on the outside too, just keep stuff from digging in. Mm-hmm. But mainly I wanted to make sure that the rabbits that I was catching and putting in there or buying from somebody and putting in there weren't digging out.
Right.
And you don't want puppies too. You don't want them to be able to dig out. But I decided to do the 5-foot wire. So basically it's 4 foot all the way around, and got a foot apron turned into the pen. I was afraid, there's some guys up here that will want to bring their foxhound deer dog puppies.
Okay.
And if I had a 3-foot fence, because they make that, that coated wire in 4, 5, and 6 foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
And I was afraid if I didn't have a 3 foot, some of those, Walker puppies or something like that would be able to get out. But a
Right.
lot of guys do that with deer dogs. They'll start their deer dog pups on rabbits in a pen.
I did not know that.
Yep. Because that way they learn to use their nose
Mm-hmm.
instead of just sight racing all the time. And you can find out if they're gamey or not. But if a deer dog can run a rabbit, he's gonna smoke a deer.
Mm-hmm.
Because the scent that a deer puts off so much stronger than a rabbit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get them to running rabbits, it's easy to transition them over to deer.
So how big a pen is this? How many acres is it? And do you have yours cut up in pieces, like a place for the puppies, and then kind of everything else? Like how what's your setup?
I don't right now. Right now, mine is like 3.5 acres,
Mm-hmm.
which is plenty big to. I mean, I've started eight pups in there at the same time already. Now, once they get in there and they start running good, they will get to where they'll catch them. But a lot of that's where they get rabbit smart too. They'll go and wait on them. They know what the puppies will figure out where the holes are, where the rabbit goes,
Mm-hmm.
about quick as a new rabbit will. So some of them will get over there and wait on him to come by and ambush him. But it's I think you could even go half my size if you were going to do some,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you just use younger puppies and don't do so many at a time.
Right.
But about 8 in mine is about the max that I'd try to start in there at one time.
Mm-hmm. And you
And
mentioned.
I don't have a little small, I guess you'd call it a sight pen yet.
Mm-hmm.
That is in the works. I haven't started yet, but I've got the spot and it's attached to the bigger pen.
Gotcha.
With a gate there to where when I get ready to move the rabbits from the little sight pen into the other one, I just got to open the gate and kind of shoo them through probably.
Mm-hmm. And
But I want to do that because if that way if you got somebody wants to start some really young pups, they can start sight racing. The way it is now, the pups that I'm starting right now, I mean, they're pretty much, or they have to start using their nose early, which, that's a good thing too.
right.
Because if they don't, they're not ever going to run one. I mean, unless they just happen to see one hopping around,
Mm-hmm.
and sight race it. But
Well,
yeah,
I wanted to ask you kind of a couple other questions. One, you mentioned a couple different breeds of rabbits. Now, do you buy rabbits to put in there? Do you just catch wild rabbits and turn them in there? How does that work?
I do both.
Okay.
I set traps around my farm. I've got plenty of rabbits to where I'm not hurt the population by putting them, moving them from over the hill to down in the pen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do both. I'll set traps around. If I catch a wild one, I'll get the dogs. If there's any puppies or anything in the pen at the time, I'll get them up, get them out, and let put the new rabbits in there and let them kind of have to run the place without any dogs for at least 3 days. That way they can learn the boundaries and they won't just go, because you put a rabbit in there, whether it's wild or one of these young, I guess, raised rabbits is probably the best way to say it. They're going to run the perimeter of the fence for the first day.
Okay.
And if you've got puppies in there that rabbit hadn't learned to get in the bushes and the briars yet, then he ain't gonna last. I'll catch him.
Okay.
So,
and
but yeah, I do buy some from people too, just to kind of supplement. When I built my pen, there was already like 3 or 4 rabbits in that little area where I did it that stayed in there through the whole process. I didn't know if there were still any in there, but I took some of my older dogs and put them in there after I got the pen complete, and they showed me how many was in there.
Well, that's a good point that I wanted to ask you about. So, when you enclosed this area, it had rabbit habitat already in there. So,
Absolutely.
So briar, it had a water source.
There is it's kind of a wet weather spring. You know, sometimes it'll dry up, but with the rain we've been having here this year, it stays damp down in the very bottom of it. Now, as far as I got lucky and I was able to do this spot right next to where my house is.
Oh, that's convenient.
So I can take a water hose and run it over there to water the dogs and all that. And I think what I'm going to do down in that bottom, I'm going to take and bury me some like small mud pans, like you mix cement up in, the plastic pans.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 3 foot long, 2 foot wide. I'm going to take a couple of those and put them down in the bottom and run a hose down there, bury them down to where they're flush with the ground. And that way I can fill them up when I need to, like summertime.
I got you.
And that'll help the rabbits. And if you got dogs that are running in there in the summertime, they can get down there and cool off, whatever they need to do.
Well, how long?
That's the plan. I haven't had to do anything so far as, you know, keeping water in there for rabbits.
Okay.
They're doing fine. Like I said, it rains all the time here lately.
Mm-hmm. So how long did it take you to build this thing?
Took me a long time to build it. Just because I had to do it when I felt, you know, I had all kinds of health issues. I had my back operated on last April, and then I had open heart surgery in February of this year. So I had to kind of do it when I felt good and when I could get some help. One of the guys that started rabbit hunting with me and going to field trials, Zachary Lyons, he'd come and help me every time I called him, you know, to come do something. He'd come help me. And then I had a couple friends of my son, young boys with strong backs and weak minds. I had them come out and help me, me and Zach, and that's when we pulled all the fence itself. It didn't take. It took us 2 days, consecutive days, to pull all the fence. Now I was lucky, again, that all the posts and all of that was already in place on this piece of land.
Right.
I don't know what it was before, because it was grown up. So I don't know if the other guy that lived here before me had any stock in there or not, but he had it fenced in. So there was some high tensile wire, and then there was some like cattle fence, but all the posts and everything, I had to buy new gates and put gates up in a couple places. But basically all I had to do was come run the wire, which it's not the easiest thing. And another thing, if somebody's thinking about doing this, don't stretch that, especially if you get the vinyl coated wire, don't stretch tight, just hand stretch it. Don't hook a tractor and pull on it, because what happens if that vinyl coating cracks, it'll rust where it cracked and you'll get holes in your pen. That's another thing that guy that used to start mine, Bobby Williams, he told me.
Wow.
So your fingers are raw when you get done, but that's the way you got to do it. It'd be much easier if you could hook something to it and pull it tight and then just go through. And what you do is you put hog rings, which is just a little ring, and there's a pair of pliers that's made to fit these rings, that kind of triangle shape.
Mm-hmm.
You just stick it around the fence, and the wire, whether you're running high tensile wire or if you're going to a cattle fence or something, and just snap it around it. It works really good. It just takes a while. But like I said, it took us 2 days to get all the wire ran. And then Zach and I came back, I don't know, it was probably a couple of weeks later, and got all the gates up and out and laid them down on a trailer and put the same wire fence over top of the gates and got all that situated, and then put the hardware on it and all that. So, probably all in all, getting it completely done, it probably took 10 days to do everything. It would have been nice if I could have done it all in 10 days in a row, but that didn't work out.
So now, do people bring you puppies? Do they bring you dogs that need a tune-up? What do they bring you?
Well, so far it's just been puppies. I like to get them I really prefer them to be 6 months or even a little older. And some people have contacted me about bringing dogs for a little tune up, and that's fine too. Um, if it's a dog that just needs a tune up, I just try to do it when I'll either have to get the puppies out, uh, and then put that dog in there by itself, or I'll go in there and walk with them or whatever and make sure that
Right.
that's what it needs. You know, that I mean, and it may not even be started. I don't know. Some people have different views of actually started.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider started just like chasing a rabbit. I want them to run and honor each other, pack up with each other, and run the rabbit. And if it's one by itself, he needs to do it all by itself. And then that's when I'll say, hey, your dog is ready for you to come get him.
I hear you. I hear you. I like that. So, do you feed them? Do people bring their own food? How's that work?
I can do it either way. The ones that have been in here so far, I just tell them to bring me a bag of feed when they bring their dog. And you know, some people may say, hey, this is what I feed. This is what I want them to eat. And if that's the case, then definitely they need to bring me a feed, whatever it is that they want me to feed them. I feed the Pride Pro Series to all my dogs. So if I'm feeding your dog, that's what it'll be. You know, I'm not going. It'll be whatever I'm feeding.
Well,
But yeah, I mean, it works either way.
well, you mentioned that people may bring you puppies, and everybody has a different definition. But I bet sometimes people bring you puppies that maybe have never seen a rabbit. Do you use like one of your older hounds to take them hunting? I mean, to show them how to do it.
I do, but I want. This is how I like to do it. I want your puppy or even my puppy. I want them to show interest on their own first. In other words, I'll get out there with them and walk them around and kick the bushes and the briars and all that and try to get the puppies to see a rabbit or at least start using their nose and working a scent, even though they don't know what that scent is yet. Just as long as you can see them putting their nose down and trying.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them will even start opening up, you know, the first time they hit a track. Those are the exceptional ones. They're rare, but some of them do it. But once I see that going on, and most time after you see that, it's not but maybe a day or two, you'll go out there and they'll be running. They might not run far.
Mm-hmm.
They will be working a track, not just sight racing. I feel like if I put one of my older broke dogs, in there in the beginning, that I'm afraid the puppies, some, not all, but some of them may just learn to run a dog track.
Right.
In other words, they just following along, barking behind the other dog that's doing it, and they really still don't know why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So once I see that they show an interest and can work a track on their own a little bit, and I want them to get more track and more running, then I'll put one of my broke dogs in there with them.
Well, Chad,
And I've learned too, on far as that goes, I've got a really big mouth female that's an exceptional jump dog, Puddin', but you can't put a dog like Puddin' in there with puppies, especially young puppies, because she's got such a big mouth that she intimidates puppies.
She
if
sounds
they're
like
in the briars with her, yeah, when she lets that foghorn go, it scares them and they don't know what to do, and a lot of times they'll run away from her.
Well, she
sounds
like a coon dog when she barks. She's loud.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So I'll take that Medi dog, which has a real high pitch, almost squeal mouth, and I'll put her in there. And, a lot of times the puppies sound just like Medi does, real high pitch. Something about that type of mouth on a dog, the puppies will flock to her. I mean, it's
right.
I haven't seen one yet that when Medi goes in there and opens, that they don't all turn and run right to her.
Wow.
So she's been the one that I've been putting in there with these other pups, and she's basically got them all going.
Well, Chad, it sounds like you've got a good setup. You've been hunting since you were 5 or 6 years old. You're in your 50s now. You've certainly had an opportunity to start a lot of puppies over the years. So you know what it takes. You've used other people's training pens. You now have your own training pen. And it's open to the public. If somebody wants to find you and talk to you about sending pups your way, how they find you? What's the best way to find you?
There's two different ways. You can email me. It's foggybottomskennels@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have a Facebook page, and it's just simply Foggy Bottoms Kennels on Facebook. And you can message, whatever it's called, PM me, message through Messenger on Facebook to that page. Or you can call me. My number is 434-579-6757.
Perfect.
And we're outside. I'm kind of in between Danville and South Boston to give you a general idea. I'm closer to South Boston. I'm outside of South Boston.
Perfect. Well, Chad, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us today. I think this is a really interesting topic. I think people certainly will learn a lot from hearing about it and hearing your experiences, and hopefully somebody will bring a puppy up to you and get it started here pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I've got people calling me and sending me messages already almost every day.
Oh, that's good.
Some guys came and picked up 3 of their pups yesterday evening, and we were walking around down in there because the pups were wore out, but they wanted to see them do something.
Uh-huh.
And I get that, so we walked down in there, and actually I went and got Maddie again and put her in there with them to make them pups that have been in there for 3 weeks. They wore out. Looked like you took a deadgum wire brush to all of them's ears. But anyway, we actually saw a little itty bitty, about 3-inch long baby rabbit.
Wow.
Run past them. So I don't know if I'm I've got somebody that wants to bring me some 1st of May. I don't know. I think I may put them in there. I don't know. I just might have to get out there and look.
Yeah.
I may have to shut it down for a month or so and let these little ones get their legs under them. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And I've heard of people shutting down for the summer months too. It just gets really hot in the South.
Yeah.
And ticks and all the other fun stuff that comes around in the summer months.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I'll with whoever the people are bringing it, if with their permission, I'll put some tick and flea treatment on them before they go in the pen.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure that they, help them with that. Because, ticks are terrible this year.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are.
You get in all them blackberry briars and all that, man, they're rough.
Well, Chad, I'm going to wrap it up here, and I appreciate you again for taking the time to share a little more about what you've been up to and sharing your story. And I look forward to seeing you at one of these hunts here in the next few months.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, bud.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Buff in the Rough.
Remember to like us and subscribe if you want to be notified when new episodes are released. Also, you can email your comments and or suggestions for future content to buffintherough@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. I hope you join us next time to answer the question,
what is it like to have the world champion in your backyard?